I watched Oppenheimer with my friends the other day. We watched it at home, but we have a nice big TV and awesome surround sound and blackout curtains, so it was a pretty cinematic experience. Now, the sound design of Christopher Nolan's films is something the internet has already talked about many times, but needless to say, it's not always super easy to understand what's being said. So when my friend Jonah asked me to turn on the subtitles, I wasn't surprised. The problem is that subtitles ruin movies. As a quick disclaimer, this obviously doesn't apply to foreign films. If it's in a different language, there isn't much you can do. Bong Joon-ho, the director of Parasite, said, "Once you overcome the 1-inch tall barrier of subtitles, you'll be introduced to so many more amazing films. So go out there and watch foreign films, but otherwise here are 4 reasons you shouldn't use subtitles when you watch movies." The most obvious is that it ruins the composition. The composition in filmmaking is how everything in the frame is arranged, but more than that, it's how our eyes are guided. Something that sets film so far apart from the theater, or real life for that matter, is that we don't always decide where we want to look. Sometimes that's achieved through a close-up or shallow depth of field, but other times that's achieved through more subtle things like who is facing which direction, who is looking at who. It may seem like you need to watch the screen during an action scene, but then you can look away during a dialogue scene. But sometimes the opposite is true. In a dialogue scene, so much is being inferred by the body language and subtle interactions and facial tics. So much energy is put into the filmmaking from so many different people to help you look at the right place at the right time. You know what will completely ruin that? Having words at the bottom of the screen. When there are subtitles, you might as well be listening to an audiobook for all the good any visual storytelling is doing. In a faster, more tense scene, sometimes only a few frames are given to see a whole range of emotion in someone's eyes, and that could all be missed if you aren't able to move your eyes freely. This is something that is more and less present depending on the conditions of watching the film. We have an OLED TV, which has incredible contrast, and we black out the room. No matter what you're watching this film on, hopefully it's not your phone, the effect of white text popping up at the bottom of the screen is going to alter the image. One of the first things a cinematographer learns is how important lighting contrast is. The flat, overhead, fluorescent lighting most of us see regularly is unappealing and tiring to look at. A cinematographer spends countless hours creating the correct look of a film to convey the visual style and tone that the director wants. A cinematographer might spend hours on one particular shot just to get the exposure perfect. Just dark enough to set the mood, just bright enough to see what we really need to see. You know what ruins all that work? A bright patch of white words at the bottom of, or heaven forbid, in the middle of the screen. Like I said, this will depend slightly on the TV you're using, but I had one scene where it jumped from dark to bright so fast it hurt my eyes. This is one I don't often hear talked about, but it drives me crazy when it happens, especially if you're watching a comedy. Everyone working on the film, the writer, director, actor, editor, composer, sound mixer, just to name a few, are all working on nailing the timing of any particular line. The timing of a joke or dramatic line can make or break a scene. It can make or break a movie. There are films that have such weird pace of line delivery that I never really got into them. So wouldn't it be a shame if this meticulously planned timing is thrown out the window by the subtitles showing the words before the character says them? The final reason is a little trickier to explain, but I think it's the most important. Sometimes you just don't know what was said, and that's okay. I spent 2 years living in Turkey trying to learn Turkish, and I constantly didn't know what was going on. I had to focus so closely to be a part of any conversation. So many people watch movies in the background or absent-mindedly. The truth is that sometimes when you're watching a film, you won't know what's going on. Often that's what the filmmaker wants you to feel. If the goal in every situation was just clarity, then subtitles could also let you know the subtext of every interaction. But that would be super lame. The oldest adage in film is show, don't tell. If you didn't totally hear what was said, or if you're not totally sure what happened in a scene, that's okay. Watch the scene. What is the actor's face telling you? What is the blocking and lighting and music telling you? Learning to engage with a film closer will lessen your total dependency on the dialogue. And if you don't totally know what's going on, then trust the filmmaker to make sense of it all later in the film. Maybe you sat through my entire rant and you still think I'm wrong. You think understanding everything that was said without any confusion is the most important thing when watching a film. Here's all I ask. The first time you watch the movie, watch it without subtitles. Watch it with the volume high. Dive into the film and try really hard to follow along, and if you're not sure what happened, then guess and keep going. If you really feel like you still have no idea what happened, then wait a week and watch it again with subtitles. Just don't default to watching a movie with subtitles. Not only will you be surprised how much you can piece together, you'll also watch that movie way more focused than you usually do, allowing you to get so much more out of your film watching experience.